Hello and welcome to a video about one of my favourite animated television shows, The Simpsons. Specifically, I'm going to talk about Season 7, Episode 2,
Radio Man.
Radioactive Man, stupid!
But before I discuss and review that episode, here's a little bit of background about this TV show.
Explain!
This popular and lovable American TV show started in 1987 as a cartoon short on The Tracy Ullman Show. It then made its debut as a Christmas special on December 17th, 1989, and it has aired regularly since 1990. The Simpsons was created by Matt Groening, an American cartoonist and writer. Over the years, Groening went from one of the show's creators and showrunners towards an executive producer and creative consultant. The show was owned by 20th Century Fox for 30 years until on March 20th, 2019, Disney acquired the rights as part of the company's complete takeover. The Simpsons has been running for over 36 years. It recently ended on its 36th season. The show has been renewed for another 5 seasons, and to date, there are a total of 790 episodes. Those One Piece fans are laughing their asses off right now. But still, for The Simpsons, this makes it the longest running American animated television series. Additionally, there is a Simpsons movie that was released in 2007, and there is also 23 video games. Hit and Run is still the best, by the way.
Oh, out of control!
The show is about a working class family in the misfit city of Springfield. Homer, Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie Simpson. Not to forget to mention the dog, Santa's Little Helper, and the cat, Snowball 2. So anyway, let's get into The Simpsons' Radioactive Man. The episode begins with Bart and Milhouse at the comic book shop, and the comic book man himself tells them some very exciting news.
Well, I suppose you know then that Hollywood is planning a feature film about Radioactive Man.
You can tell by their reactions that there is a lot of excitement due to their passion for this comic book character that we Simpsons fans have already learnt in previous episodes, such as in one of the earlier seasons, Season 2, Episode 21, 3 Men and a Comic Book. When Bart, Milhouse and Martin all pitch in to buy a comic book of Radioactive Man #1, that then later turns into a disaster. Based on their interests and obsessions, and because of their selfishness, they can't share this comic book. In the episode, they're shown as these massively mad fans of the comic book character. It's also the first volume, and it's rare. But back to the Radioactive Man episode. We then cut to some Hollywood executives and a director talking about the Radioactive Man movie, discussing about casting, staying away from the campiness of the 70s show, and most importantly, where production's going to take place.
We need a city that has a nuclear reactor and a gorge. Wow! Look at that ad!
I guess filming in Texas and New York was expensive then. It does make me laugh though that these locations do have a nuclear reactor and a gorge. Can we just feel sorry for Utah here? I mean, I thought that's meant to be an affordable location to film with its appropriate locations for the Radioactive Man movie. So Hollywood heads to Springfield and the director and producer have a meeting with Mayor Quimby and Police Chief Wiggum, discussing the movie, money, and some controversy.
Look, we just want to make movies, not kill things.
Right, we understand.
I wonder if Wiggum has seen Apocalypse Now. So there is an opportunity on the horizon for people like Bart, Milhouse, Martin, and other fans.
They will be holding auditions to find a local youngster to play Fallout Boy.
So of course, Bart, being the fan that he is, goes for the casting opportunity. He practices in front of his family and feels so much confidence by his speech and language. The day of the audition comes and Bart feels optimistic about presenting his dialogue.
Watch out, Radioactive Man!
Brilliant reading again.
Watch out, radioactive man!
Fantastic! One more time!
Watch out, radioactive man!
At this point of the audition, the director is impressed, and it looks like he's decided on who's going to be playing Fallout Boy.
Congratulations, Bart Simpson! You're our new Fallout Boy!
That is until...
That's what I'd be saying to you if you weren't an inch too short. Next!
I am dead inside.
What I really like about this scene of the episode is the devastation that Bart is feeling of getting rejected. In other words, what the industry says, based on my experience, is getting released. I've been there before, just as an extra. You feel gutted when experiencing this type of rejection, especially if you're like Bart and want to play the sidekick alongside your favourite comic book character. You just sometimes have to look like the part based on what the director is looking for, if you're an actor, an actress, or like myself, an extra. For example, that can be height, which is the problem Bart had. So later on, Bart tries to gain height with the support of Santa's Little Helper and Snowball too. On the next day, Bart only grows by ½ an inch, still being a bit too short for the role, but he then has another idea.
Good news, gentlemen. I've grown that extra inch you wanted, plus several feet more.
We found our new Fallout Boy! And he's right over there.
Huh?
So Milhouse becomes Fallout Boy. In other words of what the industry says, he's been booked. When all of his friends at Springfield Elementary find out about the news, his reaction is not that positive.
Ladies and gentlemen, meet America's new Fallout Boy!
It's a great and overwhelming scene to show that Milhouse has made it to fame, but at the same time, he has lost all of his privacy as a person in public and at his own school. At least Bart gets to have the production to film in his house and in his room as well, with a bit of damage on the bedroom wall. I'm glad to see that Homer himself has gotten something out of this Hollywood production.
Why don't you get something to eat from our food truck? Mr. Simpson?
Good old crafty service. Without that department, the cast and crew would struggle to get to the finish line. So later on in the episode, Bart arrives on the set of the Radioactive Man movie, feeling so much happiness and excitement about his favourite comic book world coming to life. He then sees Milhouse about to do a scene who is not looking as happy as Bart is. The same as when they are both at Milhouse's trailer, Bart is feeling amazed and Milhouse is not.
Ever since I became a movie star, I've been miserable. I had to get up at 5 a.m. just for makeup. And making movies is so horribly repetitive. I've said Jiminy Jilliker so many times the words have lost all meaning.
You understand why Milhouse is feeling like this by his serious and honest attitude. The early starts, the long hours, and the repetitiveness when making a film, or just one scene if it's either big or small. This can be related to obviously someone who is cast and even crew. Like myself, who has also worked as a crew member in the past, it can be pretty tiring. So later on, for another scene of the Radioactive Man movie, the production is about to shoot a big scene involving Radioactive Man tied up in danger of real acid about to be tipped over coming towards him, and Fallout Boy can only save him. The challenge here is that they've only got one shot to achieve it. But the shoot goes wrong as Milhouse didn't turn up. That has now cost them a pretty huge amount of money. And Krusty himself starts to become what some actors can be like on set.
Where's the producer? I want to talk about this coffee.
That's sometimes the film industry for you. So Milhouse runs away from the production and is now missing in Springfield. Everyone looks and tries to find him, including Bart.
Go!
Will they just find Milhouse, or will they find him and kill him?
When they find him, they'll,
Bart goes to his family's back garden and finds his best pal in his treehouse. So Milhouse refuses to go back to the Radioactive Man movie set, but Bart says being a film star is every patriotic American's dream. However, Milhouse doesn't feel the same and has a different opinion.
The real heroes are out there, toiling day and night on more important things. curing heart disease and wiping out world hunger.
Milhouse's perspective feels understandable and topical. A lot of the real heroes in today's world still don't get the appreciation and credit that they should. However, Bart has a different point of view.
Heart disease and world hunger are still rampant. Those do-gooders are all a bunch of pitiful losers.
Bart's perspective also feels understandable and topical. It's frustrating that the world's issues still haven't been controlled and not solved. He then mentions something towards the argument that's Hollywood related, and in my opinion, it isn't completely clear.
Want results? You have to go to the Schwarzeneggers, the Stallones, and to a lesser extent the Van Dams.
Based on my interpretation of the subtlety of what Bart is saying, Hollywood stars like Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and especially to those Hollywood stars in today's times, can help us escape from the issues the world has experienced then and now. Plus, the issues we ourselves face every day, while the world still faces conflict, Hollywood entertainment can always help us by keeping our minds occupied. Another interpretation of what Bart could be saying, that these Hollywood stars could be the results to afford by their wages to solve the world's issues. So as their argument continues, actor Mickey Rooney unexpectedly appears, or as he likes to call himself,
The Baxter.
The actor tries to convince Milhouse to return to production with all of his passion and knowledge about the greatness of the industry, and without any hesitation, Milhouse's response is
No!
Mickey Rooney accepts Milhouse's answer, and then Bart thinks confidently he's finally got to the part as Fallout Boy.
Jiminy Jellikers! Jiminy Jellikers!
We're shutting down production.
It's a shame really that this role wasn't added towards Mr. Rooney's huge credits list. So the Hollywood production leaves. Mickey Rooney then has a go at the people of Springfield. By blaming them for bankrupting the production, it wasn't about the money and just wanting to make a Radioactive Man movie, making everyone feel guilty and sad. Despite wanting to make lots of money and having controversies that some people in Springfield had in mind about Hollywood, there are also some people in the industry who just want to make art and entertainment for audiences. For example, I look at the director of the Radioactive Man movie as someone who doesn't come across as greedy. Sure, he can be hard to work with by pushing the limits and is particular about his casting of Fallout Boy, but he's passionate and wants to make a difference in this Radioactive Man movie adaptation, going back to him saying of staying away from the campiness of the 70s show to make this version more modern and current, as an artist and for entertainment. The episode then ends when the director, producer and others of the Radioactive Man production return to good old Hollywood and feel it's great to be back to where they belong. It's a great and interesting episode. I feel that it has some excellent 2D animation and a brilliant sense of humour. Also, being an episode of The Simpsons, it's self-aware and it presents a knowledgeable subject matter. The question is now, what do I think this episode is about? Well, from the announcement of a Hollywood adaptation of a Radioactive Man movie going to happen, creative choices and differences, locations, money, resources and controversies, opportunities for casting and the experience of rejection and acceptance, towards filming, editing and crafty, also the pros and cons of being a Hollywood star. In addition, the goal of making a Radioactive Man movie most authentically, but in the outcome of the Simpsons episode and other productions in real life, this becomes an unfinished project. And finally, the divided conversations and debates about the industry and its stars. All of this info I just mentioned is showing that's Hollywood for you. That's what I believe this episode is about. Well, obviously. I know this may have seemed obvious, but I didn't want to make a serious and authentic discussion review video. Instead, I wanted to make something fun for you the viewer watching. This episode of The Simpsons has always interested me, as someone who can relate and understand some of these examples, who has worked in the UK film industry and who is still passionate about it to this day. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please let me know your thoughts about this episode of The Simpsons in the comments below. Feel free to watch another video. Have a wonderful day, and until next time.
The